Okay. Good morning. My name is Alexis Morris, and I'm the board administrator for today's board meeting, December 5th, 2024. This is a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Chair Stevens, we're ready to begin.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And for the guests in the room, please use the sign-in sheet if you'd like to make public comment during our public comment section. And we limit public comments to 2 minutes per speaker. And I'll turn it back over to you, Alex, for a roll call.
Okay, thank you, Chair Stevens. Sarah Lucas? Present. Thank you. Bill Gropp?
Present.
Thank you. Brian Prang is absent. Is it excused?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Catherine Stevens.
Present.
Jeff Pritchard. Oh, that's right. He's going to be a couple of minutes late. So I will mark him down when he arrives. Steve.
He's going to be late.
He's also going to be late. Will he be in person?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Jim Knight.
Present.
Okay, and it looks like we do have a quorum. We're ready to begin.
Okay, thank you very much. So the first action on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda. This is prior meeting minutes. So I need a motion from a board member to approve the prior board and work session meeting minutes for October 3rd, 2024, the board meeting, October 17th, 2024, the strategic planning meeting, and November 7th, 2024, the work session, as presented or amended. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. Sarah second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
What you need, because I know you're changing that procedure, right?
Oh, yes. So if everybody, we'll need to introduce a roll call for our recording. So could I get Sarah Lucas? What's your vote?
Aye.
Bill Gropp?
Aye.
Jim Knight?
Aye.
Catherine Stevens?
Aye.
And that is everybody.
Thank you. Public comment sheet outside.
I have it right here. And it doesn't look like we have Betsy and Tony.
Okay, so we'll move on to the public comment section. Limited to 2 minutes per speaker, and written comments will be acknowledged for the record.
Okay. The purpose of this portion of the meeting is for us to listen to community feedback. The board and staff will not be making direct comments or answering questions during this time. Your concerns will be taken into consideration as we deliberate on matters. If you have specific inquiries, we encourage you to reach out to us directly via email at mail.aviation@odav.oregon.gov. Contact information can be found on our website, and we will do our best to provide a response. Okay. So,
You give me a lot of reading.
Madam Chair, before you begin, could I respectfully ask for a little flexibility on the 2 minutes? Tony and I have come a great distance. I fresh out of surgery. You're talking about millions of dollars worth of infrastructure, and I would respectfully submit that that requires a little more than 2 minutes.
I would agree. Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll start with the public. I don't have, and we'll move on to the public officials afterwards. So I don't have any of the public signed up. Would anybody online like to make a comment? Please use the raise hand function. And I don't know if the chat is enabled. You can type in the chat. If you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody online would like to make public comments, so we'll move on to the public officials. So if you would like.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Hebling to begin, and I'll back clean up.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Tony Helbling. I am I'm here today as the president of Aurora Airport Improvement Association, but I also Wilson Construction. Our flight department is based at Aurora State Airport. I have extensive experience with the master plan process, having participated in the, we started in 2010, went through 2012 with a different consultant, and then a lot of work with Aurora State Airport since then. What I'm here, and I provided you a packet, the board members a packet that outlines what our view of the current status of the master plan process is, and our ask for consideration by the Oregon Aviation Board to use their ability to influence policy, because I believe you're a policy board. And one of the primary policy advisory capacities of this board is to promote aviation in the state of Oregon. ORS statute 836, 642, based on Senate Bill 680, which Senator Johnson will speak about in a moment. Item 3E in that statute specifically calls for the protection and preservation of investment that private owners were asked to invest in these through the fence airports. I think at Aurora State Airport, quite a few people stepped up and invested hundreds of millions of dollars to bring in jobs as per, our agreements with Business Oregon and politicians, in place at the time. And our fear is this master plan, because of some of the things that are in it, going to destroy some of that investment, actually a large portion of that investment needlessly. Now, in a perfect world, I understand the vision of having a parallel taxiway and a parallel taxi lane and a vehicle service road. I understand the value of those. However, if we were building Denver International Airport out in the middle of nowhere, I can see the value of those and putting those in a flat field, clean slate design. This is not a flat field, clean slate design. The impact of those things that are nice to have, they're not required by. Thought that state would take those properties, however you want to call it, would take those properties, own them, tear them down, and turn around and build hangars, which they would then lease out to people. That just, in my head, it just doesn't seem right. That seems like a taking from somebody who's already invested so that somebody else can take it and then legally take it and then use it for their own purposes. And to me, that just doesn't seem right. We've offered repeatedly to collaboratively work with the state to sit down and get everybody around the table and figure this out. But the master planning process thus far has been driven by, what do we call it, Zoom calls and official times when we're allowed to speak and our mics are turned off when we're not allowed to speak. And it's not really conducive to a collaborative effort. This type format where we're all in the room together, we can lay things out and have honest conversations, I think is more suited for something that we're looking at hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to do. I understand that there is national pressure at the FAA. There's no doubt that Ms. Griffin has, down through Chuck Garrison, through Tim House and some other folks, put pressure on the state of Oregon, however you want to call it, pressure, direction, whatever, that we need to bring airports around the nation into compliance. We agree with that. We're all about safety. But at the same time, if we work collaboratively, I think we could figure out a way to do this in a phased approach without designating things for to be taken, which creates a situation where we're devaluing people's properties and investments needlessly. So that's what we're asking. In the packet, a lot of this you've already seen. You've seen the preferred alternative. It's in the packet. The ORS statute is in the packet. We've written to what's Chuck's title up at the FAA at the ADO? He's the director of the regional ADO.
Northwest Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. A letter we wrote up to Chuck Garrison asking for who in the FAA is specifically stating this, and we can't get an answer out of the FAA. They just say, well, it's a policy. Well, where's it written? And we can't get it. It's just a push. So what we're asking is the board is to look really hard at this, because you're a policy advisory board, and look at working with ODAV and the consultant to support general aviation and the investments that have been made at through the fence airports. So, and I have, I guess, a couple extra copies. So let's toss one down there for. Yes. Yeah. He's I didn't throw that at you.
Tony.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, let the minutes record that Tony Helen threw a paper down the table. Thank you.
Not on purpose.
Yeah, and
The record reflect that
I'm open for questions, so you can ask me anything.
Great. Thank you for your accommodation, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Betsy Johnson. I was a state legislator for more than 2 decades. I have a very personal interest in this. I was co-chair of Ways and Means at the time of my departure from the Senate. However, as a private citizen, I helped pass the legislation that recreated the Department of Aviation as a freestanding agency, pulled it out of the Department of Transportation, and established it as its own freestanding agency. I ran the agency for 5 years, including laying the groundwork for the tower and many other development opportunities and safety opportunities that now exist at Aurora. Frankly, I'm sad to be here today. I think the agency over the last decade has lost its mission. I believe you're wrong on both the process and the policy. Mr. Hebling made comment about the process. I think that the governor has articulated her interest in collaborative problem solving, and this has felt anything but collaborative. So I think you're wrong on both the process and the policy. Your customers don't trust you very much anymore. Customer service seems non-existent. I have experienced this. Phone calls go unanswered. Offers for public-private partnerships go unanswered. Public records requests are slow-walked, and internal personnel issues go unresolved. And now your advocacy for this new master plan that runs counter to Senate Bill 680. Again, I was the author of Senate Bill 680 as a private citizen and helped carry that through the legislative process. It needlessly devalues private property, both commercial and residential, and casts a blight of condemnation over citizens' homes as well as their businesses. I believe Mr. Hebling is correct as he characterizes that as a taking. And as we shared with Barry Leslie, the Director of Administrative Services, I think that will spawn unnecessary lawsuits. You are relying on non-existent revenue. The last time, albeit it was 2 years ago when I was still handling budgets of state agencies, your budget situation is bad and declining. And you are relying on close to $200 million worth of revenue. I have no idea where it's going to come from. You are dealing with moving the highway of an agency that is admittedly publicly struggling financially, and that's ODOT. And I don't know to what degree any of this conversation about moving the highway has been addressed with ODOT, but you are relying on non-existent revenue to effectuate this plan. You're chilling economic development at Aurora, certainly, and other 680 airports. Business, regardless of where it's located, relies on predictability. And this plan is anything but predictable. And I'll speak a little bit about one of the other 680 airports, which is Scappoose, my home airport. I might as well go ahead and say it now. We have $60 million worth of private investment, totally servicing 200 greenfield developable acres. And we're in the process right now of an international recruitment that will put Oregon on the map. With the help of the Oregon Business Development Department, Oregon is one of 2 finalists and have never gone this far in one of these big major recruitments. Part of the attraction of Scappoose is that it is through the fence airport. You, as I already mentioned, are going to spawn endless lawsuits, and I have observed some of the lawsuits that aeronautics has already walked themselves into, incredibly expensive and, in my view, unnecessary. You also embroil Governor Kotek and her administration in some very messy public relations issues. For the life of me, I can't understand the agency's animus towards SB 680 and Aurora, other than you are parroting a long-held FAA trope about airport sponsors owning everything at the airport. I think we have demonstrated in the two active 680 airports that the promise of 680, which is very aggressive private sector development, has come true with no detriment to safety or good operations at the airport. To a lesser degree, you have alienated your Independence Airports users as well. I heard from many of them during Ms. Stansberry's tenure about fences being built across approach zones and the rest of that sort of stuff. 680 has at Aurora, and I'm estimating this, but I believe created somewhere close to $220 million in investment. There are somewhere in the area of 1,500 jobs relying on the businesses at that airport. $1.6 billion in property tax, or $1 million, in property tax revenues that go to schools, fire, police, libraries, and other public entities. And again, I've already talked about the private investment in Scappoose that will do exactly the same thing. I think the magical thinking that by condemning these private hangars and leasing them back to their former owners or rebuilding on your own is just that. It's magical thinking and will not create a solvent Oregon Department of Aviation. Many of those companies may leave Aurora or even leave Oregon, which would be tragic. Your fuel tax proposal, I think, is going to find resistance in the legislature. Certainly, I can't imagine that the commercial service airlines are going to be real enthusiastic about higher costs servicing our commercial airports. I have spoken briefly with the Port of Portland, and there is a tangible lack of enthusiasm for increased jet fuel there. So at some point, I think the board needs to realize Aurora's value to the region. The two largest heavy lift helicopter companies are there, light flight military operations, public safety operations, training the next generation of airline pilots, of which there is a sore need, the largest kit plane manufacturer in the world. So my request is going to parallel Mr. Hibling's. It's stop attempting to deliver this ill-conceived plan. Work with your tenants at Aurora, not against them, to sit down in a collaborative process that can be facilitated through one of Governor Kotek's priorities, which is Oregon Solutions. Oregon Solutions is designed to take seemingly intractable problems, see if the table can be set with people willing to get to yes, and then using very skilled mediators, attempt to develop, to deliver on the promise that we can get to a collaborative problem-solving answer to these very difficult problems. Stop working so aggressively against the largest, most complicated airport in your system. Stop blaming the FAA for forcing your compliance with no proof that that's exactly what the FAA wants. I don't know how well the board understands in totality the ramifications of the staff plan. Mr. Hibling has passed out some information. I don't know how many of you have seen that in its totality, but I very much commend it for your consideration to read, review, and then take into consideration the long-term damage that you could potentially do to Oregon aviation by continuing to march on a plan that I don't believe is deliverable. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No, I don't see anything online, so that would conclude our public comment section.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will move on to the planning and projects update with Century West Engineering. We're going to be taking a look at the 2024, 2025 NIPIAS projects.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Can I say something real quick? Senator Johnson, Tony, thank you so much for coming down. We do appreciate your time coming out to visit us and letting us know your concerns and walking through. So want to say thank you very much.
Thank you for acknowledging your appreciation for us being here. I would respectfully reciprocate by saying, please take into consideration our request and turn it into action.
Yes.
And thanks for the extra minute.
We will definitely be considering what you have said here. Thank you.
Sure.
We'll get started. Good morning, everybody. We do have our planning, policy planning and programs manager update. I have about 90 minutes scheduled. It's a fairly long PowerPoint presentation. I don't know if it'll take that full 90. We have about 50 slides to go through. What these will cover, and just kind of a very brief intro, is it'll show some of the projects we had been working on in 22 and 23. And then our big list of projects that are in 24, 25, and 26 and 27 moving forward. So throughout this, I'm going to try to go through the slides fairly quickly, but if anybody has any questions, please just raise your hand or blurt something out. Have Tony and James here from Century West to help out with any of, airport specific questions or just any of the technical side, the engineering side of any of these projects. Started. So I've showed this one before. I think everybody knows who's on our planning team now. Andrea Abrahamson, Brandon Pike, Ermy Bunkle, they're all in this meeting as well, online, remote. And then myself. And the Century West team, if you want to take it.
Yeah, so this is our engineering side team. We have planner support on this, but this is primarily for engineering projects that we do for the agency. We try to stay in the background and be quiet. I mean, you probably see me lurking in meetings, but that's usually about our only presence outside of the agency, representing the project work we do. You can see we got quite a few project managers there. You see the volume of projects here in a few minutes that we actually undertake and are pursuing for the agency. We split that out through a number of folks. I serve as a program manager, essentially. I do some project management as well, but I have a team of project managers. They're not primarily dedicated to ODAV, but they do ODAV work, and we like to spread it out so that no one person is taking a huge weight. We have our support staff there, project engineers, EIT inspectors, utility support. Everybody on this list, with the exception of one person who is just starting into one of the ODAV projects, has ODAV experience over the years, up to 25 years of ODAV experience on their airports and projects over time there. And then, of course, we got some of our senior folks as QA/QC there. So we function as support for ODAV, take on any projects that are necessary, and then you'll see the work that we're doing here coming up on these next few slides.
And Alexis, if anybody raises their hand online, I don't think I can see it. So
I'll let you know.
okay.
Thank you.
And this is what every slide is going to look like. We're going to have a text wall on all 49 of the following slides. No, not really. We didn't copy and paste everything from the AIP handbook, but they're going to be a lot less text than this. So State of Oregon, everybody knows we have, well, now I think we're down to 96 public use airports. Valley View, Estacada has recently privately owned and private access, private use. So they've been removed from that public use list, but all the blue stars, these are our 28 state-owned airports. So as you can see, they're in every single corner, of the state. They're spread out. It takes all day just to get out to McDermott one way. So they're scattered all around the state. And this will be a good reference point for going through the projects in the following slides. Okay, so 22 and 23, as you can see, we did not have a very large quantity of projects during that time. That was primarily due to just COVID, recovery limitations, things like that, funding availability, of course. So 22, 3 NIPIAS airport projects, 2 AIP, 1 BIL, at just a bit less than $1 million. 1 non-NIPIAS at our Toledo Airport through the SOAR program, $300,000. 23, even less, 1 NIPIAS airport, Cottage Grove, AIP, $160,000, and PEP, Pavement Evaluation Program, for our 2023 system plan. And then a giant jump into 24, 25, and you'll see on the next one, 24, 8 NIPIAS, 3 AIP, 5 BIL, 4 million. List of the airports there. A couple of them have multiple projects, like Cottage Grove, for example. That's 1 AIP and 1 BIL. 1 non-NIPIAS at Cape Blanco. That was through SOAR and legislation. That's well, we'll get to the photos, but that's almost a near completed project. And then our pavement evaluation through our system plan. 2025, 16 NIPIAS. Again, some of them have multiple projects going on at any given time. Some of those are split between design and construction. 2 non-NIPIAS through SOAR and Connect Oregon. We were Oak Ridge. Out of our 2 applications we had submitted, Oak Ridge was selected as a Connect Oregon project. So that'll start in 2025 on the design phase. And then system plan. So the difference in our system plan for 2025 is we are working with the FAA to request funding for updates to our Oregon Aviation plan. We've heard that come up here at our board meetings a couple of times, and just from the general public and airport users and whatnot with other requests there. So we're waiting to hear back from the FAA, but we're hoping to include updates to a couple of sections. Would not be an entire plan update, that gets very expensive. So we'd update some sections, and there's a slide later that'll go into that in a little bit more detail.
Alex, before we go off that, just a quick question, Chair, if I may. Do you have the breakout of the AIP, like what is between your describe, like what is FAA giving us as far as discretionary versus entitlements versus, do you have that breakout?
I don't have the dollar values. I mean, I have the counts on a couple slides ahead, but I can put together the dollar amounts and get that to you.
Just curious how much we're able to pulling in other than just what is.
Yeah, all that data is here.
Okay.
It's just not compiled into one nice table. So I could do that and send that over later this week or early next week. 26 and 27, similar to 24 and 25, we have a large list of projects. So 17 NIPIAS, split between AIP, BIL, 7.6 million. Long list of airports. Milano, you'll see, has 4 separate projects, so there's a lot going on there. One non-NIPIAS at Oak Ridge, so that would be, fingers crossed, the construction phase of that Connect Oregon grant. System plans to be determined, but that will likely include our payment evaluation program, and then also some additional potential updates to the Oregon Aviation plan, depending on how that goes in 25 with the funding that we have available to us. And then 27. So as you can see, it's a very large jump of projects, and we can just pop to the next one. It's best time to talk about it. So very large jump in projects in 24 forward. The countdown there at the bottom, you can see how many were AIP and BIL and so on. And a lot of this is due to the fact that the department basically kept a lot of the funds from the FAA we sat on for a couple of years. And now we need to expand all of our near expiring funds. That's really what it boils down to. So by the end of 26, really, all, if not, or most, if not all, of those funds will be expired. BIL, of course, expires or sunsets very soon as well at the end of 26. And so, yeah, any questions on these numbers before we continue on to the individual projects?
One note. So I also want to mention a large part of this also has to do with the efficiency that Alex has really brought to the position, and really just that service delivery is much faster, quicker, and much better. So big kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just as a sidebar, so with the small amount of projects, the small amount of match revenue that we had available to do projects in 22 and 23, carryovers happened. NPE dollars stack up, and we're getting to the point where those expire, and revenues are rebounded so that we can actually cover those matches again. The BIL funds, that was more of a direction from FAA to lump those at the end of the BIL sort of 5-year run and make sure that those were expended at the end as opposed to metering them out. They asked everyone to save them up. I think we all sat in those meetings where it said, we want to do a big project in 26. So that's kind of where this BIL sort of hump gets built in.
Doing the cumulative amount of 56 projects over this time frame, what kind of dent does this make in the overall CIP or that the agency has for airports?
That's a good question. So that's part of the program, being fairly new to the position. I'm still trying to figure out how to really mesh all of that and figure out what those numbers look like and how big of a dent this would make to answer your question. So I don't really have a great answer for you right at the moment, but that's something that I can work with Tony and James on over the next few days. See if I can get you a better answer.
This clears a substantial backlog, I'm assuming, of projects.
Especially with the BIL funds. So the BIL funds, a lot of those are focused at, well, some of it goes to big projects, but some of it is focused at pavement maintenance backlogs. And you'll see those projects rolling through the rest of the list here. There's a huge backlog of deferred maintenance at all the state-owned airports, nucleus ones, all of them in general, but this takes a big chunk of that out. So yeah, those deferred surface seal projects and things like that we really need to do to be maintaining that investment from FAA. This really puts us at a good advantage there. Oops.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, we're putting a dent in our future CIP.
And if I can just jump in, still a lot of need. There are still a handful of projects we've had to put off or don't have funding for, kind of mid-ranking projects, taxiway reconstructions, especially at both the Lebanon Airport.
Okay, so now we'll start getting into the individual projects. There's not a lot per slide. It's just a brief description of what the project is, photos, and cost in 2025, and their either completed date or their start dates and so on. So 24 design projects. Abandoned. So we have a runway and taxiway surface seal. The rest is deferred payment, as James just mentioned. From our backlog, focuses on primary payments, including runway and parallel taxiway system. Fairly inexpensive, I guess, as far as aviation goes. A little over 84,000. Bidding will start in spring of 25.
Can I ask that as you go through these, if you know where we're at with the environmental on each of these?
So these projects, they're very straightforward. They're pavement footprints. So we're getting CADXs immediately out the gate on all of these. So as you see, yeah,
Do you have those in hand, really?
in writing, yeah.
I want some of your magic, please.
So
These ones you did a while ago. We got these.
So this design is actually the 50% is in. So this is on the way to 90 now. So we haven't submitted final docs on these. We haven't got those buyouts. But this doesn't involve, major rehabilitation. There's no scrape and repave. This is all maintenance work.
Yeah, I think you still have some magic going on.
So it's patching, it's surface seals, it's crack seal. Pretty basic stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, they've been giving us, and we just had pre-designs on some of these projects coming up for the 25 grant season. We didn't even talk environment. I said, you're good to go. CADX all the way.
Oh, okay.
Good for you.
Yep.
No NIMS consultations.
No NIMS consultations for this.
Okay.
No added impervious area.
Well, that doesn't matter. It seems like.
Right. Yeah. Right.
As long as
Yep.
environmental is done.
Yep.
To the chair's point, then don't rock the boat.
Touch Grove, very similar to Bandon, so won't spend too much time on it. Very similar project. Independence, taxiway, taxi lane, apron, surface seal. Again,
And I'm sorry, I'm assuming with all of these surface seals and all these, then it's also markings and remarkings and all that.
Yeah, marking removal prior to
Yeah.
marking after.
So good looking surfaces when they're all done.
so yep, similar to the last couple. Let's keep us moving. McDermott, again, same thing. McDermott sometimes, many times now, it seems to get pushed, another year. It does get pushed out every once in a while.
This is an investment in 2017, a new runway, full depth reconstruct on this. So we're just getting back there to do the first round of major surface seal on it. It's good timing on that.
Construction projects for 24. So Aurora, taxiway, taxi line, apron, surface seal, fog seal, and markings. So this is 100% complete now?
100% complete. And talking about fresh, good looking markings, Google just uploaded a November 6th satellite image into Google Earth, and you can check it out in good detail.
Okay.
Looks sharp from space.
Yep.
FAA was impressed.
They were.
Line item, obstruction removal under existing easements. So this was completed, as you can see, last spring in May. That was for me, it was a pretty cool experience because it was one of the first times, was the first time I was able to go out and just see kind of the before and after of a fairly large obstruction removal project at one of our airports. So for me personally, it was great to just be able to go and be hands-on on the ground for that.
And again, sorry to keep interrupting, but for the off airport, for the other ones that require easements, is that in a future project? I'll wait for that slide then.
Let's Bay, rehabilitate runway, replace current electrical system and buildings. So our contractor has gone out and started on the electrical phase of this project. They've explained a little bit better than I could as far as what they've done with the
Conduits in the ground. That's as far as they got. They wanted to get it started this year, get a kind of leg up on next year's construction. So they want to put all the conduit in the ground, backfilled, leveled, cleaned up, and then kind of taking a break over the winter.
We'll start again in the spring and estimated completion summer 25.
Is the lighting system that's there still there for the winter?
Yes,
Okay.
everything's intact. Yeah,
They just did it parallel foot
Yep.
over or so.
yeah, they're going to sweep into the new cans, the application offset.
Cape Blanco. And I'll probably call on Tony to talk about this one a little bit too, because I know this has been an exciting project for us. So rehabilitate the runway, replace the electrical system, and the building. A new thing we've been able to very likely add is replacement of PAPIs. This was a legislative investment by now Senator David Brock Smith, and its construction started in July of 24, and our estimated completion is here fairly soon. I heard anything you want to throw in there?
Just that the runway did reopen. All the markings and everything are down. The electrical is not functional right now. They're still waiting on some lead times for electrical equipment and the PAPI installation, like Alex said. And then we're expecting another closure maybe sometime in January, February for the completion of the electrical work.
The PAPIs paid for by the state or by the federal government?
It's state, the same funding sources for the overall project with SOAR and from the legislature. We had some cost savings on paving and markings that allowed us to get that item included.
This is a long collaborative effort with this contractor. So this is Knife River Coastal, and spent a lot of time doing value engineering with them on the front end, try to get prices down and get the entire scope built in. And then as we march along through the project, we've kind of realized some cost savings and be able to march that back and say, okay, what else can we put in? What else can we put in? And as of, well, the signing of change order number 4, we've got the entire scope back in this project.
Excellent.
The speeds have been on and off again multiple times.
Yeah.
We're very happy there.
So they've not had PAPIs at this airport before?
No.
That's a really big safety improvement. That's great.
A month and a half ago, they pulled the original 1940s bases and cans out of the ground. So those have been non-functional for decades.
And this is when we had to do tree removal to put these in, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So not Tony's folks in operations have done a lot of work at this airport to get ready for this project, and then to clear PAPI approach surfaces. Do a lot of work.
You can just see the clearing on the right side of our engine.
Yeah, very, very down by the threshold there. Very low. A lot of folks working hard to get all the scope back into this project and get it down the road. Just about there, just waiting on equipment to show up.
And I think everybody here probably knows, but Cape Blanco, not an IPS. So it's projects or investments like this are sometimes the only opportunities that we have to really make big projects like this happen. So. Okay, system projects. PEP. So I've shown this or a very similar slide before. I think it's probably new that we have the map there, just a nice highlight of which airports that the evaluations were performed at. Spend a whole lot of time on this one. PMP, kind of similar thing, probably showed a very similar list before, our 2024 PMP program, which airports were being performed at. Sun River does have an asterisk. They were originally on the list, but they actually completed, I think, a repaving of their entire airport.
There's been a lot of projects over the years. Recently, the end of the runway was done, where we had some work, and then also the HOA had done a bunch of work back in some hangar areas that we had slated for PMP. And so by the time we got there, most everything was done, and so it didn't make a lot of sense to do a couple hundred feet that was left over.
And on to 25. Okay, so these are some of the new ones that James had made a reference to earlier. So abandon, environmental assessment, 701 surface obstruction removal. Part 77 transitional surface.
Another obstruction removal project we're just kicking off here. So this would be survey, this would be beginning of the EA, inventory obstructions, all on the east side of the airport there, where we have a lot of trees indicated in the master plan for removal.
On airport or off airport?
Combination.
Combination.
Yeah, so easement acquisition was a piece of this. That's what drives the EA here.
Chiloquin, so similar to some of our 24 projects, just deferred pavement maintenance backlog, working to catch up on. Condon, similar, design phase, maintenance backlog.
And as we're looking at these two, some of them, they might look a little funny. For instance, Condon's got a runway, it's got more pavements out there that, look like they could use some maintenance, but this airport in specific actually had a big maintenance project done not too long ago where we did all the maintenance that was needed on the runway and those two stub taxiways coming out towards this area. Because it's all concrete, it was all done in one project at the same time. So there was, I think, about a $600,000 or $700,000 investment in maintenance just at that airport previously. So this comes back and actually addresses all the asphalt pavements that didn't get touched the last time.
That last project was 2020.
Yeah. So if you're seeing gaps on some of these projects, we're highlighting maybe the runway and not the parallel taxiway, or the parallel taxiway, not the runway. It's because those other areas are actually involved in other projects. Maybe a rehab, maybe previous maintenance, but they're getting addressed in other ways.
Did you say what part is concrete?
So the taxiway that goes towards the top of the page out of the red and off to the right and up to the top of the page as well. And then the runway's just out of sight. Above the AWAS circle there.
Runway's concrete?
Runway's concrete, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the only one in ODAV's inventory that's concrete. And the taxiways.
Yeah. Okay.
Another Condon for the master plan and, Aegis update. So last update, 2002, so it's been a while. Most of the projects are completed, so new master plan, it's time. Joseph, similar to a lot of the other ones on the list, pavement maintenance backlog. He's too fast, no hands raised online, it doesn't look like. Sorry, I know there's a lot, so again, Joseph, so obstruction removal. Currently working on this. This one did take us a little bit to go through the VA process, didn't it?
Reasonably smoothly. Fortunately, there's a small number of obstructions we're moving here, and there's a couple, and we only deal with, I think, 3 different property owners off the runway there. And I think it's 10 obstructions. So again, because it's off property, we're driven into that EA process. This is moving, working as a Fonzie for that EA right now. So when we get done with that, we'll be able to launch into either easement acquisition, and then this is the reimbursement for that easement acquisition, and then the design phase of the actual construction docks to get those obstructions out there.
Looks like it could be a Christmas tree harvest.
Actually, one of those things is a massive, it's a cottonwood down by creek there. So Hurricane Creek's a really pretty creek, and be very careful with that tree. The rest of them look like that though.
And with all these, you're getting future easements? Okay.
Yeah, we're to do procurement of those easements.
Not just for acquisition, but of the obstruction, but also
Yes.
future.
Yeah,
Obstruction.
so navigation easement will be acquired, and then later on, I'll be able to go down there and he can maintain top and do the things he needs to do to keep that approach clear. And this one's actually driving night minimums at this airport.
Yeah.
That's the goal of this.
Lebanon, again, similar to a lot of our other projects. We're catching up on a lot. Dermot, see if anybody catches my little joke photo on there. Survey of the airport and determine what, if any, airport hazards are present. So.
Is that a jackalope?
It's a jackrabbit that spent too much time at the uranium mine.
At the lithium.
There's that decommissioned uranium mine that the airport was originally built for. It's just right up the road there. It's 8-10 miles to the west, something like that.
Do you know if we've been seeing more traffic down there because of the potential mine?
Elon flew in.
Musk did?
Yeah.
Okay.
To McDermott?
Yeah.
Or, no? Melina. So, again, pretty similar to a lot of the other projects. Probably special this one, except for, let's see. Then we get into construction. So,
You go back to that one.
Yep.
Yeah, is that new exits?
Yeah, that's my question too.
This is actually on, they asked us to do all these on top of the ALPs now. So what you're seeing is the new ALP, or the stuff that's proposed on the ALP from 2018.
The purples.
Yeah, the purple
Proposed.
stuff.
What proposed
Those are not included in this project.
Not included in this project. Only the red is included in this project. We're not doing any new impervious or anything else, just maintaining existing runway length, taxi lanes and apron.
Was that from just an ALP update to the purple or?
It's
was
a
it
full
through
master
plan?
Yeah.
But are you going to do, obviously, you still have to do the areas of the runway. Beyond that, or are you just doing the pavement surfaces between the thresholds, or are you doing the full length? Because including those exits, just curious. I mean,
So we talked through eligibility with FAA yesterday, and they were good with the footprint as it shows.
focused.
The existing pavements, since they're sitting there, and
Right. Until they pay for it, new pavements,
Until they
they
pay
have to
for it.
maintain the existing ones.
there is a project program to do the taxiway rehabilitation. It's been one of those that's kind of been kicked down the road a little bit by funding issues. So it's in the pipeline, but that would be the one that would relocate those in. So sure. Depending on funding and availability of discretionary and all that good stuff.
Construction. So Aurora, runway 1735 rehab. Place electrical system building as well. 3.6 million. Bidding will start very soon, next couple of months.
I think the electrical piece is probably going to get removed at this point.
Not gonna quite make the budget. We had some back and forth with the FAA on the crown. Is that part of it? Yeah, so.
They asked for a crown correction here because the crown has actually got a couple of quarter crown. It's flattened in the middle. So they wanted this to be in compliance when we got done with this project. So they increased scope, increased budget, increased duration of project by forcing that crown correction to be put in. So not a lot more expensive.
Crown correction or runway slope?
It's crown correction. So right now, instead of crown, it's flattened in the middle.
Okay.
There's a couple of quarter crowns and it's I think 0.5% to center line
Mhm.
and under.
Mhm.
And so despite the fact that there's no drainage issues out there, there's no issues with, Tony's got a bunch of great pictures of, the kind of lack of icing that shows up on center line during icing events.
Right.
They pushed back on that and said it needs to be in compliance by the time. And I think we probably, between you and I, we spent maybe a year, 14 months arguing with FAA over this, trying to get a changed decision on that.
Yeah, because one of the things, if a runway reconstruction is going to happen down the line, it's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And wasting money.
Last time we did this runway in 2008, 9, 5, I can. It was a mill and fill. So the crown as it was before
Mhm.
that project is as it is right now. So they did not require a crown correction at that point, but this time around they're requiring.
Mhm. Understand.
Abandoned, similar, pavement maintenance backlog. Rose Grove, replace failing main apron pavements.
Project was bid in 24.
Yeah,
Got bids in on it. Contractor elected to defer it to starting next year. We've got our contracts for this one. Wildish is on board for it, and then they'll start.
Same bid price?
No escalation.
Well, I was thinking it could go the other way.
Eventually,
When you say failing, so is this reconstruction or
well, there's some reconstruct, there's some rehab.
rehabs? Okay.
The balance on this one was down the road. We bid it last year or this year, technically, in 24. This one is not subject to the NIMS consultations either.
Because it was last year.
Yeah, so it was already down the road when they got to that decision. And we have had that discussion repeatedly with FAA about this one specifically.
also Cottage Grove. Different section, of course. So the first is really just the apron and then, of course, the runway and taxiway. Independence. Yep. Question?
Oh, no, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Are you phasing the apron reconstruction?
Yeah, there's a number of different phases on this project.
Move the aircraft around?
Yeah.
Or do they have to relocate?
No, they would be flipped back and forth.
Yeah.
We've done maintenance at this airport. 6 different cycles of PNP, so that was going to be the approach there. This one also, I mean, if we shut down the entire parallel taxi, we would shut down the airport. So this one's got a lot more phasing to it than say like the McDermott one was, where we shut down the airport for a week and just get it all done.
Joseph, AWOS replacement. Yeah, finally.
You're welcome, Sarah.
I don't see her hand raised yet. So.
She's smiling.
So fingers crossed, as soon as next summer.
It's eligibility. The FAA's life expectancy is 20 or 15 years for weather equipment, and it's approaching 15 years next year. So that's what was setting the time frame for that project.
Dermot, similar to any others.
It's a construction phase now.
Yeah. Thank you. Construction, not design. All I know is a very exciting new potential project. We're kind of going back and forth with the FAA on this one a little bit, but so one of our Connect Oregon applications, 2 times now. We only do this one once, so we're going for the water line.
It started as a SOAR project in cycle 2 in 2018. And the amount approved was 500,000. We spent about 80,000 on design. And then when we went to bid the project, it came in well over it's something like double. It was like $800,000 and $900,000.
Yeah, it's between.
And then at that time in 2020, COVID was starting. Our revenues were down, so we shelved the project. We attempted to get Connect Oregon funding for this project. We were unsuccessful twice in doing so. We had continued to update our engineers' cost estimates, and prices continued. Our last one was 1.4 million earlier this year, and sorry, Alex, to jump on this, but
I don't have this historical reference, so please do.
But the costs far exceeded our funding ability and what was approved for SOAR. But this summer, when the FAA came down and visited the airport, we discovered an opportunity to use FAA funding, and they also provided some state apportionment for a different project, which opened up about $1 million in bill funds back into our pot that we could allocate toward this project. That would actually increase scope to constructing a hangar and some of the hangar connections to the taxi lane, as well as completing the entire waterline improvement project, which is basically holding up any future improvements at that airport from the fire marshal. So we're very happy to see that moving forward.
This has been around for more than a decade.
Yeah.
And as some mentioned in the study in the master plan
Mhm.
last time around. Yeah.
Prospect, so one of our non-NIPIAS, and again, similar to a lot of the other projects. This one, of course, non-NIPIAS does not get any federal or, at least FAA funding. And so this was going through COAR and not quite as clearly indicated as some of the other drawings, but and this, just for everybody's awareness, this is one of our projects that is not Century West. This is Precision Approach Engineering. So it's been great working with them on this project. And there was a couple of just scheduling conflicts, but we're on schedule now again to start construction in spring and summer of 25.
Mm-hmm. And this one was where pavement was failing and there's active fire operations that go off of it, right?
And yeah, we had about 8 sinkholes on the runway that we were discovered years ago. We patched them, and just this week, staff are out and discovered 2 more. So we're actively keeping an eye on the situation, but the runway is very much at end of life. So this reconstruction project cannot come soon enough.
And Tony, those sinkholes were originally trees that were cut down and the root balls eventually rotted.
We believe that's how they developed. They left the trunks or the and those rotted out and left these voids in the ground.
This airport's been in EFS for a long time.
Yeah.
I think the first time we did major PMP work on this was 2006. And there were cracks out there you could just about stand inside of them. They were 8-9 inches wide. They're big cracks, big pavement failures.
It looks like Jeff Pritchard has his hand up online.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Or I guess it's good afternoon for me. Still good morning for you. Quick question about the inspections. Can you refresh my memory on this one, Tony? How often are you guys inspecting the runways?
One of our KPMs is quarterly airport inspections for all of our state airports. And so we do that at least quarterly. But because of the situation at this airport, we are trying to inspect Prospect monthly.
Gotcha. Okay. Very helpful. Thank you.
Oak Ridge, so design and construction, and this would be via the Connect Oregon grant that we've been awarded. But a lot, similar issue to Prospect and several of other airports, with the kind of the exception that Oak Ridge is used just about every year for a very important fire base. So the most of the pavement on the airport is not looking too great. Sir Stevens is very aware of that, being close to Eugene Airport, but it's definitely an important airport. And again, being non-APS, it's not eligible for FAA funding. So, we appreciate being able to having the opportunity of Connect Oregon and having this, project happen. So excited for that. Design will be in 25, and then construction would be spring, summer of 26. And then system projects for 25. So similar to other years, PMP. We did have some contracting issues for our PMP projects in 2024, just with, some contractor issues, I should say, not the contracting. Those seem to be concluded mostly positively so far. And we will be the Region 4 that was originally should have been completed this year in 24. We just were pushing that out 1 year to be in 25. We had a contract to have it completed, but we just decided to basically cancel that contract before any of the work was started, just to save everybody some headache and time and money.
That one got some big delays attached to fire ops too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fire ops at these airports that, and folks on the Grand and Grant County specifically just did not want the disruption of PMP this year. And by the time the contractor got around to doing those airports, it was later in the season. So it just really didn't make sense to them to have that contractor out there doing work when fire season was still really peaking at, late September. So coming around next year, this will be early season kind of construction. Keep those on the front end of the schedule, hopefully before fire season gets really going.
And earlier mentioned the Oregon Aviation Plan updates. So we are still working with the FAA, really trying to push for being able to update multiple sections if we can. So our current plan, I should say, was completed in 2016. Of course, there's evolving objectives. 2016 is almost 10 years back. And we have 5 key areas that we'd like to focus on. One, we do have our new agency strategic plan well underway. We intend to have that completed by February, just in time for the legislative session. And then, so we'd like, of course, anything that's updated in our Oregon Aviation Plan to be consistent with that. And then our previous director, Betty Stansbury, did a great job putting together the resiliency report. So we'd like to incorporate findings from that into our update. Economic impacts, COVID and wildfire management. And then, of course, there's always been a lot of discussion around, preparation and the aftermath of the Cascadia event. AAM and alternative fuel systems. We need to do our best to prepare our airports for, current and future innovations and alternative fuel options. And then just, the last one, miscellaneous. There's always other opportunities that we may find between now and then when we actually get to making those updates.
Yeah. So a quick thing to add on the economic impact side, of course, with the system plan update, it's airport economic impact, right? So one of the things that I want to do is talk to Business Oregon and leverage them to do an aviation industry sort of study concurrent to that. So we get a good idea of economic impact of aviation throughout the state. So that's hopefully going to be part of it, because I think we need a bigger overall view, especially when we talk to the legislature, of the positive impact aviation has on our state.
It looks like Jeff Pritchard has his hand up. Go ahead, Jeff, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, just a little tag on to that last slide. When we talk about economic impact and we think about emergency preparedness, have there been studies in conjunction with, OEM or Oregon Health Authority that sort of pre-identifies some of our outerlying airports that might be used as strategic, points for the delivery of supplies and goods, whether it be an earthquake, winter storm, of course, a Cascadia event. But, it seems as though we can't invest in setting up every airport with, fuel supply, electrification, and that kind of thing. But have we really strategized on trying to create a couple of hubs on both sides of the Cascades that could be hardened or pre-identified for that type of use?
So Jeff, to answer that question, there was that study that was done by Betty, and then subsequent to that, there's also the ODOT Lifelines project that's going on that we participate in. And then we've initiated discussions with ODEM as well, emergency management. So those are just kicking off, especially in conversations with CAPS and then other organizations that are interested in emergency response. I think we're moving toward a more comprehensive plan of how to utilize our general aviation airports in terms of emergency response. So that's coming together slowly, sort of trying to get the right people in the room to talk about that.
So if I can just add to that, so 2017, 2018 timeframe, there were 3 different agencies that were doing the same work in silos. I mean, there's no other way to say it, really. And so some of that was funneled into the resiliency report, but essentially it was Oregon Department of Emergency Management, Department of Homeland Security, and FEMA. And so my experience at Eugene, we had site visits from all three agencies. We have letters of agreement in place with FEMA and DHS, I want to say. And I know they were doing that all across the state. They did their own studies and they came up with different outcomes. So I think that there's definitely some work that could be done to consolidate all of those efforts and put it more into one location would be helpful. And perhaps the aviation plan is a great repository for all of that work.
Just back up what Chair Stevens says, we had that same experience with all three agencies, all three coming to slightly different conclusions or priorities. I would probably recommend that we stay as involved with Oregon emergency management as they take the lead, and especially with coordination with those federal partners, but lean in where the importance of aviation is, so that they're funneling this and doing that work and speaking to on behalf of to the federal agencies as well, and setting that our priorities are aligned with EM's priorities. Yeah, because we experienced that same thing.
Yeah, and especially running tabletop exercises too. So like how to operate in case of disaster. That's one of the things that I'd like to focus on, and I've mentioned that to the director of ODEM as well. So hopefully at least initiate the conversations. We've already had conversations and we'll be meeting soon on the drone side, because we're the subject matter experts on that, and ODEM they have no idea. And that's what I've been telling state agencies. If you got questions about advanced air mobility or drones, come to us, because we know what we're doing. So I think that's initiation into further sort of discussions on the role of aviation and how we can all work together to make sure we're all aligned.
Thank
You'll
you.
be hearing a lot.
Yeah.
Be hearing a lot about this update. We'll be talking with the FAA soon about it, so I'm sure this will be coming up at almost every time I have a presentation at our board meetings.
Just for one of the things, so especially in the additional enhancements, I would say probably two things, especially if you're focusing on advanced air mobility, alternative fuel systems, especially if we're thinking about things like SAF in the future, especially for those airports that need jet fuel. Unleaded avgas, is that going to 2030 is not that far away, and the FAA's got a mandate to do that. They've also got a sword hanging over their head with with the study associated with
Yes.
with the health study associated with that EPA has done. And so I mean, that's infrastructure and systems needed to be in place associated with that. And where does the aviation plan assist in especially a lot of airports that are going to need levels of conversion for these facilities. And so I think that those are certainly some areas that the other additional enhancements that are going to become important for the aviation plan to set the state's priorities.
Yeah, and I agree with you, especially on the unleaded side. Before setting mandates in terms of dates, we need to take we'd suggest to the legislature at least to strongly look at transition times, do a study, figure out our capacity, figure out incentives, all of that. Because I think if we do a wholesale approach of it's just a deadline, sorry, we're done, that creates problems for our general aviation community and also us as well as all the public use airports out there. It just doesn't make sense. But if we do a comprehensive plan, take a look at what's out there available, and then see what it's going to take to get to that next step, that makes more sense.
There are other states doing this.
Yes, exactly.
Same work.
Yeah. And we're not a silent, right?
Exactly.
So it's good to look at other states and gain experience or gain insight from their experience.
Yeah.
Sorry to hijack your.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Good. And then SOAR. So for this, I'll pass it over to Tony. You want to take it away?
Yeah, I just wanted to include, since we're talking about all the projects across state airports, a quick update on SOAR. I had done an update in February when we did the most recent Cycle 5 applications. And the same projects that we've carried forward are shown up here. The projects up top are what we have approved and funded. They're encumbered. So we're showing almost $4 million in SOAR funding worth of projects that we're working on, including that Milano. There's a portion of ineligible work for FAA funds. So we're using SOAR funds to cover that scope. And then the recent Oak Ridge match for the Connect Oregon application or a grant. And then the Prospect project, what we have remaining for construction for the match for the Connect Oregon grant, and then what we have for Cape Blanco as well. That's what's remaining. Then we have the worker fund and contingency fund remaining, and then the obstruction removal equipment that we are looking over proposals right now and hoping to have that acquired here within the next month or two, and in hand, ready to go. So again, $3.7 million. We have, as of October, a cash balance of $3.8 million, which leaves just $32,000 unencumbered. We are expecting through the rest of this biennium, so through June 25, $669,000 in forecasted revenues. Again, that's just forecasted. And then every project cycles 1, 2, 4, and 5, with everything I just discussed, would be completed. And then just cycle 3 projects would be still carried forward that are listed at the bottom, just over $731,000. So the good news is we are catching up on other previously approved SOAR projects, including the Milano from cycle 2, and then our higher priority projects like runways, Cape Blanco, Prospect, Oak Ridge. And then with continued, revenues, it looks like we'll be able to finish the cycle 3 projects within the next year or two as well.
And one thing I want to note is when I talked to Tony about the equipment, ROI was a big factor in that. What's the return on investment on it, right? It's like, is it going to decrease staff time? Is it going to decrease costs for rental? And taking a look at what his analysis was, it made sense, right? Just like the painting equipment made a lot of sense. It's made a huge difference. We'd saved money on that, and we're making our airports look much better. So that's the lens that all these conversations that we have is what's the return on investment, right?
Remind me what the worker contingency fund is.
That is for our temp position out at Joseph, the only airport that we have a temporary employee not based in Salem. And then, that's what that is.
Maintenance worker?
Yeah. Inspections, fuel, and snow removal.
Summary of everything. So 22, 23, of course, a lot of our projects and just overall funding were limited. COVID was a big part of it. So with 24, 25, really just getting caught up. So we have a large amount of projects in both of those years, and it continues on in 26 and 27. That would expend pretty much all of our near expiring funds and of course, the sunset of BIL. And, our planning initiatives are just things that we're focusing on, or again, expending our available funding, continued PEP, PMP improvements. We have brought procurement and contracting in-house. That's made a very big difference just on our turnaround time and consistency with our contracting processes. COAR collaboration. So this is just, now that we're doing contracting in-house and we've brought the FAA, grant administration to the planning team, we can try to work best with our core applicant airports to see, where do things mesh? Just making sure that the projects aren't necessarily overlapping and just what can we do to help everything mesh well across. A lot of our airports will have multiple grants. They'll have a core grant to make their match for their FAA grant. How do we just make sure those work efficiently together? AAM integration is applicable. And I just made up this little vision, but enhancing safety, infrastructure, and innovation to support Oregon's aviation system. So, and with
Use ChatGPT for that.
so questions, I know there was a lot, and I don't know if a presentation like this had ever been done previously. I just really wanted to showcase how many projects we were doing with limited funds and a very small team. And, was this something that the board felt was valuable? Was it, too much, too long? Should it be consolidated? Should this happen once a year? I mean, just kind of open to whatever you guys want to.
One thing I also want to note on that last slide that happened, QC has gone up tremendously. So quality control, we've been discovering errors in old templates, old contracts, and we're just like sitting there like this past 4 levels of review. So it's that's one of the primary important things is to make sure it's done right. Because when we're finding contracts with the Oregon Department of Transportation or the Oregon Transportation Commission, and it's inapplicable to ODAV. So we're making sure we're catching those quickly, early, and often, and making sure if it ever does come to litigation, which we don't want, that the contracts are rock solid. So that's been a good part of the process.
I think that was very helpful, and I definitely want to see this every year. Yeah, very good. It's a great synopsis, and I think it's also something you can take to legislators or other community partners and really explain what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff has a.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, awesome. I agree. I think the presentation was very helpful. Obviously, it is a lot of information to throw at people all at once, but it does showcase kind of what the team is working on at ODAV. And that sort of leads me into a question. What do our partner entities think about ODAV? There was a comment earlier about silos or as some are referring to us in public safety now, cylinders of excellence, right? Because we're all really good at what we do. But what do other partner entities in the state think about these projects and what we're doing? Obviously, it's important that we highlight this with the people that supply the funding for ODAV, but is it helpful for them? Is it useful? Is that one of the I guess metrics you use to put this together? That's what I'm curious to know.
Not in terms of we haven't shared the individual project information except for maybe Oak Ridge, but I see your point in terms of showing the value of airports to other state agencies, and that's an ongoing process. We're talking with other agencies. I mean, there's a agency board and commissions group that I just presented to about drones and aviation and how we're subject matter experts to come talk to us. I've been reaching out to other state agencies like you talk with Billy, state police, emergency management, some of the larger entities, ODOT, just starting to make sure that they understand the value of aviation and what role we can play and how we can support their operations as well. So those are ongoing. But yeah, you're right. We can definitely share this information with them, and it makes sense. So thanks for the suggestion, Jeff.
A couple of things. Yes, I think it's, to the chair's point, it's highly valuable. I think it's great to see this at least once a year. I think it represents both for the board as well as for you all as staff, as well as for anybody interested. There's 2 roles that ODAV has. One of them is the physical infrastructure of the facilities that you own and maintain, which is your airports. And so, that part of this really covers very well where we are. I'd recommend this time of year, because you can update for the completed year's projects, and you're going to be pretty close to understanding where you are environmentally or contracting, or design, and whether that project is for next year is going to make it out the door by December, no later than January. You'll know what your CIP list is and construction list is for the next year. So I think this is a good time of year to do it. I think it's good to see it in this level of detail. But I do think, to Jeff's point, think about an executive summary of this and how you can take that roadshow, to the chair's point, and share this with your partners so that here's what we are doing, here's how we can support you, or here's what we're doing with those funds. I think that is a good thing. This level probably is not going to be necessary for them. Yeah, too detailed for some executive summary about that, I think would be an excellent point to Jeff's point.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a.
I think the only other thing would be, to the question I had earlier, is maybe adding on one other component, which is, there's obviously whatever every agency has inside of its 5-year ACIP. What else is there beyond, what else, if this is tackling 50% of your projects, what is the other 50% that's beyond that? And just giving a gross estimate, because as you've acknowledged, this is taking away, chipping away at backlogs. What else is part of that backlog?
Jim.
How do you coordinate your efforts on current projects with future undecided master plans of airports? How do you coordinate that?
A lot of tracking spreadsheets. No, I mean, a lot of it, a lot of it really does come from James and his extensive historical knowledge and just knowledge of all of our airports. He's been working with ODAF for decades. And so I really do rely on going to James a lot and Tony a lot, that have both just been in this district for longer than I have. So as far as, I guess, trying to coordinate for future master plans, I mean, that's always up to, there's no, pre-planning or that we can do. I mean, that all still has to go through the public, PAC process, a public comment process. So, I mean, we can only coordinate as far as we know what we can request our funding via AIP or BAL for a master plan update. And that's really about where it ends. I mean, I don't have anything more to say to that. I mean, we can't do anything prior to that public, PAC process and involvement.
It seems like such a complex problem or an issue to try to solve.
Sure.
You got moving targets for the future projects that in future master plans, but you've got pressing issues that need to take place today. How do you come up with a solution that postpones immediate issues to a master planning process? Because funding becomes, funding, public involvement, all of those things are really, really important. So it's kind of a hard question, but
it's a good question.
And there is a process in place for, a master plan's 20-year look, right? So you generally would have your plan in a CIP, but you're right, some things come up, or maybe there's a new business opportunity that, a third party wants to come in and create something that isn't currently shown on your ALP. So there's a pen and ink change procedure. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to do an additional environmental process to make that work. But there is a way to do it because then, it would trigger an EA, and then that has a public involvement component to it as well. So there are ways to fit new opportunities into a capital improvement program.
Yeah. And so many of these are not even, as Alex mentioned, they're just maintenance. We're just catching up a backlog of pavement maintenance, let alone actual improvements or projects shown in the airport master plans.
Yeah, to Jim's point, kind of what I was trying to say is not that I personally don't need it, but maybe it's worthwhile sharing. But the process by which you manage your portfolio of all of your ACIP projects, including the new ones that come on from master plans as they conclude, you're adding on to that list. And so there has to be a project governance system in place that says, we've decided, and this is a priority, and this one is going to have to wait. And so I don't know that we as the board need visibility into that, just other to ensure that there is a governance process in place that makes those decisions and sets those priorities, because there's always more demand than available resources.
And I think a lens into that is the strategic plan as well.
That's true.
We can set up priorities. One other thing that I want to mention is in terms of individual project management, Alex has been looking at Microsoft Project to help manage projects. And I think that's a a much more robust way to track projects for accountability purposes and to make sure things stay on time. So we're actively looking at solutions because I think in the past it's just been a lot.
Spreadsheet.
Yeah, spreadsheets. So much more professional Gantt charts, then we can report out, which is much more useful to our friends in the legislature and in the governor's office too. Say, hey, we're here. And we point out exactly where things are at and provide that visibility.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because you're going to run into items on things that need to be postponed pending the outcome of a master plan.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
having that type of a product at your disposal kind of would, I'm assuming then it would be able to trigger, before we do this project, let's take a look. Is this something that's coming up in the master plan that could be a conflict? So
Yeah.
And Jeff, you have your hand up?
Yeah, for the group, I can talk to staff about this offline, but if I'm curious to know, do you have any involvement with Esri at the state level or GIS information? And the reason for the question is if you're not familiar with the Esri product suite products, between story maps and the dashboard products that they use or have that you can use, that could allow for a lot of these projects that are happening on larger scale to not only be public facing on your website, but they also provide a visual representation in addition to, the traditional Gantt charts. Don't want to take away too much from the meeting and everything that you guys have done, but I wanted to throw that out in case nobody's heard of that before.
Yeah, I'm dragging the agency into the 21st century. And I'm looking at GIS too, and getting it onto our website. I mean, GIS is one of the most fantastic tools out there, the visual representation of data as well as maps. So yeah, Brandon's from our team is actively studying up on it, and we started acquiring high resolution data to dump into there, with the eventual goal of doing data overlays onto that. So, for example, if there's a report out that needs to be done at a certain airport or a region, how much money's been putting on, what projects have been going on, that would be easily accessible through GIS products. So, absolutely, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah. And you don't have to take my word for it. You may want to reach out to OEM, Oregon Department of Emergency Management. They've been leaning really hard into that, and I know it's helped with some of their other projects. So I don't know if there's any crossovers or assistance, but thought I'd bring that up.
No, Forestry does it too. Forestry does it really well. So there's definitely other agencies that excel at this. So we're leaning on their sort of leadership and expertise as well.
Okay.
I can jump in if you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, we're starting to use ArcGIS online to create some online maps, and I think the story maps will be a great resource, whether it's for the projects Alex has been talking about or what have you, to have on our website and to distribute various ways. But that's a good point, Jeff. So thanks.
Yeah, sure thing. And if it's okay, I'll send an example of a story map to Kenji so he can distribute that to everybody. For those that don't know what it is, it's a very powerful tool. It's not just specific GIS or data driven like a nerdy type document. It's a great way of being able to present information to people that don't know about whatever the subject is.
If it's a visualization, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Cool.
Other questions, comments? Okay, good. Well, I just want to say thank you for that work. It's great presentation. Really appreciate your work, Alex and Tony and Century West team. And I just want to take a moment. I know we're heading up for a break, I think. But I want to take a moment and just acknowledge that earlier in this board meeting, we heard some disparaging remarks about ODAV staff. And I just wanted to set a tone that it's tough when you got a new director and you've got a lot of work of course correction. And that's a frank way to say it, of what needed to happen with this agency. So I just wanted to acknowledge your work. You're on the right track. I know that you've been digging in and really doing a review of everything in the department and how you do it and finding efficiencies and clearly making some headway on our backlog of maintenance that we've had struggles with for many, many years. Having been doing this at my own airport for the last 4.5 years, it's a process. It takes time. And sometimes you don't make friends along the way. But I just want to acknowledge all of you because you're doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing I also want to note too is I welcome criticism, negative feedback. That's A-okay because it's an opportunity to learn. And it shows that, for example, our potential shortcomings. So there's ways to improve. It might be a communication issue, right? We're not doing our job selling ideas as well as we should be. So I never take it personally. I think it's a good way to grow as an agency and as a person. So it's great. So I always appreciate people willing to come out and talk.
Absolutely. Happy to hear all the opinions, but I just wanted to give you guys some kudos.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I would reiterate the chair's remarks as well. And I think this is one of the things when we were asked to, look for a new director. Today is a good example of the mandate to take care of the facilities that we have and the infrastructure that we have. But the one challenge, and I think this is really the mandate we're given in the selection of you and the development work you've been doing with your staff, is really to move the agency, as you said, into the 21st century, incorporating technology, looking at future opportunities for aviation, and looking at the industry and how Oregon can lead in the industry as aviation grows and moves forward into multiple areas, and not just manned aviation, but unmanned aviation and systems as well. And to the chair's point, the development in the work in the last year has been excellent, and it's not easy to make changes, but please continue.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think we're at break time. So we'll come back in 5 minutes.
Tony.
Finally.
Let me help.
I ran into the fog. It's traffic. There's a lot of fog around the Portland area.
This here. All right.
Alrighty.
My turn.
Here we go. We're good? Yeah.
And you're gonna.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just pulling up his
Okay.
presentation.
Okay, we are back and we will go to the director's update. Kenji.
Here I am.
Oh, hold on one second before you start that. I gotta share my screen, sorry. Okay.
All right.
Working.
It's not working.
Is it? Oh, I don't think it's working. Sorry.
All right. Next slide.
There we go.
There we go. So I just thought, I have 20 minutes just to talk about what we've been doing as an agency, just to give a broad overview. So this is like the year in review, consolidated. So next one.
Works now.
Works now. What'd you do?
Wait, are we going to play Guess the Airport?
No.
No?
No. By the way, did I show you this picture before? Okay.
This was flying back from Coos Bay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, Brian, can I hitch a ride with you on the way back from North Bend? And it was so worth it. It took 50 minutes instead of 4.5 hours. Sorry, Alex. That it took staff. So that was absolutely fantastic. Brian's not on the call, but I just want to say thank you for doing that. That was amazing. And of course, there's no conflict of interest since he's a board member and he was reimbursed from the state because there's an actual formula to do that. So that was really nice. And then
Could you stop in Astoria before you?
you'll have to ask Brian on that. One thing I want to mention and just make sure, I wish our audience was still here, but the amount of maintenance that is done by pretty much 3 full-time maintenance folks is amazing at the 28 state-owned airports. So I made this presentation to the Oregon Pilots Association. I said, hey, next time you see these folks, make sure you say thank you. And that's Don out in Eastern Oregon, just at Alkali Lake.
His tractor.
On his tractor.
And we've added the herbicide tank so we can do 2 things at once. Spray.
Yeah, so it's things like that, right? I mean, look at that paint. The painting's been done. The airports look nice. And I know pilots enjoy that because a fresh coat of paint, it's great visibility, great for safety, but there's nothing better than flying into an airport that looks good. Yep. So that was fantastic. Here's another paint job as well. Lebanon, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, looks really good.
Looks really, really good.
Good job.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. And of course, having the drone helps out because we take these pretty pictures. And that's one of the big things about communication, showing what people are actually doing by taking pictures. Repairs, right? This was out in Hawaii. That's Don putting up the windsock. And if you look real closely, there's new signs going up at some of our airports that say, hey, text this number if you see any issues. And we've been getting texts saying, hey, there's something going on. Go
The
ahead.
very next weekend that's when Don and I went out to Hawaii, and it was the very next weekend we had reports. People sent us photos of their aircraft out of Hawaii checking in saying, hey, it was great.
Oh,
Is there cell service in Hawaii?
No, so wait till you get back. You do have to get back and then send us the text.
Okay, I would think so.
Yeah, well, he's in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, if you look at the bottom left, there's a drone too. So he's been using it to figure out obstructions and also take fun little videos that we share on social as well. So it's really a good storytelling tool. And Alexis will go over that later, so I won't steal your thunder. And then the construction, that's Cape Blanco. We made a trip out there just to check out some of the construction progress, and those are for electrical, right? Those big holes.
Yeah.
What are you two laughing about? You're looking.
No, I was just talking about this presentation. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, but there's a lot going on, and then the grants that we've been giving out. This is Florence, right? And Brian and I actually flew around, checked it out. And it's like, oh, that pavement looks real nice. So that was great. And then PEP and PMP. PMP, that was down in Malin. If you've never been out there, this is the Oregon airport that's sort of really in California, but nobody knows the difference.
Seriously?
You throw a rock and hit
Oh my
California.
gosh.
Yeah, over a street and a drainage ditch.
Yeah, it's fairly interesting. The rumor has it the border's actually on this side, but they for some reason they think it's on that side.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way, it's a cool airport. There we are down there.
Where's the runway?
That's, yeah, you're looking at
That closed cross?
no.
the airport. That's the RC strip right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The runway is right here off to the right
Yeah.
side.
That runs this way.
So looks like a closed runway. Well, no, the shoulders of a closed runway
Yeah.
on the right side of the photo. So that's what I was like.
That's an RC field.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a little bit too short for people to land.
We're pausing for just a minute.
Really? Was there an earthquake?
7.0. Where? Hey,
From California on the coast.
it's California, Oregon.
Okay, those on the coast, be aware there's a tsunami warning if you're on the coast. So just as a heads up, head to higher ground if necessary. But we'll go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
This was on the call.
So we're right off of Cape Blanca.
It's Arcata.
Okay.
It's Arcata.
Okay. We didn't feel anything here. Okay. Well, as we mentioned earlier during Alex's presentation, we're really looking at new ways of doing business, right? Making the agency more efficient, looking at return on investment, looking at different metrics, and just really overhauling the agency to do a better job of what we do. And we have room to improve, right? We totally do. We get it. But that's some of the things that.
Pacific City?
Yes. Good guess.
Yes.
Yep.
So you see Haystack Rock? I was like the dead giveaway. So, one of my favorite airports. It's cute, it's small, and it's great. Yeah, that airport will not close. The only way that that'll happen is if the land use regs don't get changed or there's too many things that are built around it. So that's a county thing, but not from us. That's a close up of the text message sign. Don does such a good job. He's hard at work. And then using tech, right? Using drones. No, Andrea's not flying that drone. She does not. She's looking at it with disdain. What is that thing flying in front of me? But yeah, it's a great way to show off our construction, what we're doing, and then also using it to do our 5010s too. So it's a great tool to increase efficiency. What took Don potentially 45 minutes or longer is consolidated down to like 10, 15 minutes. So it's a great tool to do that. And then education and outreach. This was Aviation Day out at LeGrand.
Not the Grand. Grant County.
Oh, Grant County. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Where we participated and made a presentation about the agency and about aviation to a bunch of kids. That was a fantastic opportunity. And then folks probably remember this, right? We stuck there when Lane Community College was out there doing a demonstration day. So we invited the community to come out and experience what it was at the airport using advanced air mobility, the drones and such. And LCC continues to do operations out at Oak Ridge Airport with students. So it was a great opportunity to introduce city leadership, city councilors from not only Oak Ridge, but the small town next door. And just to show off what we're doing. And then, of course, the new generation, right? It's a diversity in aviation, encouraging folks who normally might not have gotten into aviation to get into it. And this was fantastic. And then our budget, the GRB was released. Kristen, are you going to go into that at all?
Yeah, I'm going to just talk briefly about the changes in the
Okay.
budget. Yeah.
Perfect. So I just want to mention that. And then our website, Alexis is working on it.
Don't steal my.
I'm not going to say,
No, you're good.
but
Sleep fine.
our contract is just about signed, just about final edits, and then we're good. So that's underway. And I'm so excited because it's so bad. And it's a prime way that people want access, information, and services. And if it doesn't work, that's a very poor way of doing business. So we're on it. And of course, our social media. Alexis will give us current numbers, right?
Numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Followers, subscribers.
Yeah.
Like and
Covers-
subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll cover some of that. Yeah.
And then, as Brandon mentioned, we're looking at GIS, right? Data acquisition and starting to integrate that into not only our website, but our GIS capabilities as well, just so information is much faster. How are we doing on time?
No, we're good.
Okay, good. And then if you look at this is a high resolution map of Cascade Locks that I took about a month ago, I think. And I was just on the way back from con and I'm like, yeah, I'll put the drone up, put some markers down and see what happens. And that shows you how high resolution these pictures are. So going back, that. So you can really get a good idea of how good the resolution is on these. And then really preparing for the future, right? Drone delivery, and also drones as a first responder. Jeff's a big fan of that. I had the opportunity to go down to Eugene and see their drones as a first responder program. There are a couple cities in Oregon that have that, including Gresham. And it's been a game changer. Talk to the Eugene folks. They've been able to clear a number of calls using drones. They're often on site first. Say if there's an accident or there's a 911 call, they're there very quickly. So it's a great tool, and anything that we can do to support them or help them with their programs, we are doing it. And then, of course, electric aviation, right? That's coming down the pike. Hopefully, with the new system plan, we'll be looking at electrification, looking at what our assets are, and figuring out a larger framework and plan for deployment as well, and do it smart, right? You just don't put electrical infrastructure just because you can't. It's what makes economic sense. What will businesses use? What will drive economic activity? So we'll be looking at that in the next update. And then, of course, emergency management, right? Just figuring out what to do in case of natural disaster. How can we leverage our existing aviation assets to support the state, ODM, OSP, when disaster strikes, fire marshal, forestry, and just making sure that those communications are open and we're planning together instead of being silos of excellence. Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for that. And then, of course, always supporting our core, which is GA, right? How do we ensure that the infrastructure that we put in place not only supports advanced forms of aviation, but our current aviators as well? So that is always core to the way we think. And then building a new infrastructure, hangar development. That's always an important piece. It's like we suffer a shortage of hangars for our GA pods. How do we do that? Right? Thinking of new creative ways, how to fund it, how to make sure that the development happens. And we do this by planning, right? Whether that be a strategic plan, everybody knows that it's underway. Hoping before February, but we'll see. We have a meeting this Friday, or no,
Next week.
next Friday. So that's a very important piece in the system plan that we talked about earlier as well. And then things to think about, sessions coming up. Kristen will be talking about our GRB. And then that also included our drone insurance piece and then the rules fix. So those are in that. And of course, fuel tax as well. That's not coming from us. So. And things to think about: fuel, unleaded, and resiliency. Right? How we're talking to senators about how we can best approach this as a state in terms of the transition. And we talked about a potential plan, right? So those are some things to think about, and also alternative fuels as well as electrification, because they're all fuel related. Just thinking about those holistically, and then the resiliency piece. Thinking about, are there places, because right now all the fuel is concentrated on the banks of the Willamette at one facility, and that's where most of our aviation fuel comes from. And in case of a natural disaster, that's going to be an issue. We also suffer fuel shortages in Eastern Oregon, especially during wildfire seasons. We run out of fuel. So looking at potential fuel farms on the east side. So those discussions have been going on as well. Yeah, we always wish we could do more, right? But we have limited funds. But hopefully that'll change, because one of the things is, even if we get additional funds, we want to make sure that we deliver the best return on investment to the citizens of Oregon. So we always think about that. Our operations, we think about infrastructure investment through that lens. And I thought I'd throw that picture up of our September meeting in front of the ARF. Thanks to our friends at North Bend. That was a fantastic opportunity to visit and see their operations. And yeah, thanks to everybody. And that's sort of what we've been doing in a nutshell at a very high level. We could always go into detail, but that's what we've been doing. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Comment. Actually kind of goes back to the update we had before. And Kenji, you're next to the last or close to the end slide there about, all things still unfunded. I think that as you've absorbed this year and the next few years of high activity, that means that there are going to be a lot of assets that are in good shape, but 10 years from now are all going to need it again. But you're not going to likely get this type of large influx of funding to do that. So I think a prioritization to look at those, to spread those out. I know certainly we all have that with our own airports, where if we had just spread out projects more efficiently, we would be better off financially than swallowing 10 major projects in the course of 3 years and then having 3 years where we had nothing. So think about that as we're doing this, and as we're looking towards the long term of that list. And certainly that's part of the financial planning, is to figure out, can we spread these out a little bit better, both for the agency, for funding perspective, from a workload perspective, all those things.
And you're absolutely right. And plus, there's a lot of unknowns, especially from the federal side. That's the election. So we'll wait to see how things pan out or shake out as the new administration comes in and what changes are made to the FAA. I know you're in the same boat. It's like, wait and see what's going to happen, right? But yeah, absolutely, that's part and parcel of the prioritization, right? It's like, there's an assumption that always think with reduced funding, and what do we prioritize in those situations? So yes, thank you.
Any other questions for Tony?
Tony. Just Tony.
So Kenji. I just looking for Tony. No,
It doesn't look like anything online.
All right. Okay, well, I know we're coming up on the noon time. So do we want to go into the COAR cycle 9, because it's a 5-minute report? Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Lunch is here as well for whenever we're ready.
Okay, or I guess I would ask Andrea, do we need time more time? Do you need the whole 20 minutes?
I probably won't need the whole 20 minutes, but we can wait until after lunch also, either way.
What would y'all like to do?
Alexis, you want to do 5 minutes spiel? 20.
It's Tony's
Oh,
5
yeah,
minutes.
sorry.
if he has one.
Sure.
Okay. It'll be less than 5 minutes. I am just returning from an international trip and enjoyed. Thank you, Steve, for the direct flights into PDX from Europe. Very, very helpful. And so I apologize, I did not have time to throw a presentation together. But I do have just a couple quick updates. Our next PAC meeting for the Aurora Master Plan is December 10th. And we're going to go over the preferred alternative and provide additional opportunities for the PAC and public to provide comments and input on that preferred alternative before we go into drafting the ALP and the CIP for the master plan. We're also going to discuss noise, go over the noise contours and all the information that we have in that meeting as well. We did have 2 VPDs at Aurora since our last meeting. One of them was another balloon recovery team. This occurred in October. And so working with, and both of the VPDs occurred from private property or through the fence. So working with both of those property owners on preventing the unauthorized use of the access point. The other one was a personal vehicle that had come and gone from one private property through the fence to another private property and going around just an island and using the taxiway to do that. So looking at those. And then already kind of went over projects, but like Alex mentioned, the Cape Blanco airport is back open after the pavement portion of the project was completed, and we will have additional closures for the electrical. And I'll be sending up updates and outreach through GovDelivery as normal when we schedule those closures. Same with Slets Bay, a brief couple-week closure to get some of the electrical improvements done, and then the bulk of the project will happen next spring. And the real benefit in doing that is it should. So we had a couple-week closure during the maybe not best flying weather season, and that should help to reduce the overall project duration during better flight weather and construction weather as well. And over the Thanksgiving weekend, got a email from the FAA, something to be happy for. We are expecting a FONSI on our Aurora EA for obstruction removal. The public comment period has closed, and we are expecting very good news on that. So happy to report that. And that is the bulk of my update.
You want to mention a couple more details on what all exactly equipment could do that we're likely soon?
The obstruction removal? Yeah. So that was in our most recent Cycle 5 SOAR application from February this year. The obstruction removal equipment, we have gone out, we got 4 responses from our solicitation, and one of them, we had 5 from 4 different vendors. One of them provided 2 different responses. And it is a skid steer tractor that can operate a mulching attachment. We also have a brush cutting attachment, I think it's a grapple attachment to be able to lift and move rubbish, and then a stump remover or mulching attachment, and a standard bucket attachment. So all of them came in below the amount that we had approved for the equipment, and one of them significantly lower. So we're looking at some savings there as well.
And these are right sized to our airports. Just to give you an example, how much did it cost to rent?
Right. Yeah. So like you said, on return on investment, it was $24,000 for 4 weeks when we rented a piece of equipment that was a little bit bigger than what we're ordering, a little harder to maneuver throughout the state. This 200 approximate $1,000 on this equipment will serve us well over a decade statewide and throughout every non-nesting season every year. We'll be putting this into good use.
So you take a look at those numbers and look at those
Yeah.
savings over time. It's worth it.
Mhm. All right, thanks for that update. Any questions on? Are we good?
Yeah, no, I don't see any hand raised or anything like that.
Good. Well, we'll break for lunch and just a note that the tsunami warning has been lifted, so that is good.
What time would you like to return?
We will return at 1 o'clock work for me.
1?
No, sorry, 12:30.
12:30?
12:30. Sure.
Okay. All right.
Should we all wave from today?
We are back whenever we're ready.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So we will move to the core cycle 9, approve the 2025 ARC members. A motion to approve the ARC members for the 2025 core grant evaluation is presented, and Andrea has a presentation on this first.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Stevens and Aviation Board. So yes, I just have a couple quick slides for you here.
Yeah. Go ahead and share your screen whenever you're ready. Sorry, Andrea.
It's from today?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Can you guess where that is?
You should be able to see it now.
South Coast, yeah.
It's on 101.
Yep.
We got it.
Perfect. So I just have a quick update on our core cycle 9 applications, and then as Chair Stevens mentioned, present our annual request to the board to approve our aviation review committee. So we ran our application cycle back in October, and this year we received 58 applications with a total ask of almost 6.5 million. That's for our, of course, priority 1 applications, which are the FAA grant match, priority 2 for resiliency projects, and then the priority 3, which are mainly economic development projects. Excuse me. And just for comparison, I added our stats from last year, so you can see we were pretty close to what we received for last year's applications and ask. This year, we have an estimated funding of about $3.5 million. So currently, where we are in the cycle is the applications are to be reviewed and scored by the ARC members in December and January. And then at the end of January, there will be an ARC consensus meeting where they will put together the final ranking to present to the board at the February board meeting. And then I've got our list of ARC members here. We reached out to all 12 of the ACTs in Oregon and requested that they submit a person to represent them. Region 1, unfortunately, was not able to get anyone to volunteer this year, so I just have NA there, and they've only had a representative for probably 2 of our core cycles. And then this year we also have 4 new ARC members who are Commissioner Kevin Cameron, City Councilor Mike Hickam, Brian Gebhard, who is the Operations Director down at the Medford Airport, and Commissioner Patty Adair. So we're excited to have some new ARC members. It's always fun to have some new people on board. So with that, I just request that the State Aviation Board approve the 2024-25 ARC as presented.
Okay. So any questions, or we can go straight to the motion, and what I need is a motion from a board member to approve the ARC members for the 2025 core grant evaluation as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay. And
any discussion? And we do what roll call vote then?
yes. Sorry. Let's see. Catherine Stevens.
Aye. Yeah.
Bill Grob.
Aye.
Sarah Lucas.
Aye.
Jim Knight.
Aye.
Steve Niggy.
Approve. Aye.
And Jeff Pritchard.
I approve. Aye.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I can just hop into the next one, which is just a little tutorial of the grant system for reviewing the applications. And this should look familiar to all of you. This is the way that we had the board review the applications last year. So you all should have logins already. If you can't remember what it is, you can use the forgot username password down here. If you have issues with that, definitely just reach out to me and I can help you get into the system. And then I'll just give you a quick review of it, just because it has been a year. And so once you're logged in, you'll see on the dashboard, you don't have any information in these boxes because You are aviation board reviewers and not grantees, so unfortunately no tasks or opportunities for you there. But how you will use the system is you go up to the search bar, click on applications, and then the easiest way to find the applications is to enter the year, which is going to be 2025. And currently, all of the applications are in act review status. So if you just input those two fields only, click on search, you should get 58 results there. And that's how you know that you're in the right section. And then you just click on the name of the application, and you can click on each of these sections, which are the application pages, so that you can review what was input. There is this miscellaneous uploads, and then there is an option for grantees to upload documentation in some of these other forms. But if you scroll down, you can also click on this attachment repository, and all of the attachments will be located there as well. So it's pretty simple. After the ARC has their consensus meeting in January, the one thing that will change is that the applications will be in a different status. That won't happen until the last week of January, but I will send out an email to all of you board members in case you are still reviewing applications at that point, and that way you can still get in there and find them. But that's basically it. Are there any questions?
Andrew, could you go back to your first slide that shows how many applications and the total monetary request?
Yes.
And do we know what's available?
Our estimated funding is 3.5 million.
So, and if you recall, priority one is for FAA grant matches. So if you figure 3.5 and 3.2 of that is priority one, really limits to priority 2 and 3.
Yeah. He's not going to make it. Maybe.
I will note also that although the board didn't approve an increase in the grant maximum for this cycle, it is allowable for grantees to request a higher amount, and the board can approve that. And so there are quite a few applications, I can't remember quite off the top of my head, but probably at least 10 in priority 1 and priority 3 that are over the $150,000. And the board always has the discretion to approve those at just the $150,000. So when we send out the list of applications, once they've been scored and ranked, you can kind of see where the cut line may fall if the board only approves the minimum or the $150,000 maximum as opposed to higher amounts. So it is possible it could get down into the priority 3s, just depending on how that all shakes out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a good question, Jim, because I think even though they are priority 3, I'm sure that there will be some projects that have some excellent value there that have essentially very little chance of otherwise finding funding. And when we get to that point, we should have that matched, balanced conversation about those priorities at that time.
James, I might tag you in here. So something to keep in mind too is in the past, the FAA grant match has been 10%. Now it's 5%. Just this year, next year, right? At least so far. So just something to consider where that 5% difference.
So will affect this cycle?
The priority ones, anybody that has that the priority 1 for the FAA grant match.
That's a big help.
Yeah, so it's something to consider too on, I think to Andrea's point, if you did want to approve for the, say, a 250 or cap it at the 150, it's up to you, but.
Is that tied to the reauthorization or the bill? If you recall.
The 5% change? That's just what they've been telling everybody is the way.
I think it was reauthorization.
It was, yeah, so the reauth for 26.
Okay.
Because the 26 was actually a surprise. Yeah, that hasn't been around this whole time. It was reauth came out.
I just wondered because you said it was for 2 years.
Yeah, 25, 26.
So, but the reauthorization's for 4, so I'm not sure. Might want to check that to see where the authorization came for the 5% or the, yeah.
And doing all the CIP planning.
For the next 5%.
Don't
Yeah,
expect,
the 5%.
yeah. Well, originally it said only expect 25, then it was 25, 26. And they said, don't expect anything beyond that.
This is why I'm questioning whether it came from Bill.
Yeah, so we can look into that, and then when we get to our next meeting to show the board what the ARC. Would that be a good time for us to confirm and provide some additional information?
Yeah,
Or would you need it sooner?
Sure, no, I think that's fine. I just want to keep that.
Was
The future bill funding on our radar,
Sure.
potential changes.
So does that mean that the 5% is for the next 2 years, but if the project that's FAA funded goes beyond that point, will that have an impact on, is that good for that project, regardless of how long it takes for the project to be completed?
Yeah, and it's based on the grant year, grant issuance.
Okay.
If it's 25 or 26.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I will send out a follow-up email to all the board members, just with the information about logging into the grant system. And again, just let me know if you have any issues with that.
Sounds good. No big deal, reviewing 50 counties. Lots of time on campus.
That's pretty much though what we've been doing ever since the COAR program began. Around that number of grants, it is time consuming.
We have been trying to ask our grantees to provide more information in their grant. So 58, maybe even more information than what's been coming in previously.
So has the training helped with the applicants at all? Are you getting response from applicants that they would like wanted more training before they submitted their applications?
We always hear a little bit, especially at like the Walmart conferences, and we've provided a couple of training opportunities, but not a whole lot of people attend, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And this time around too, a big change is we're offering all applicants an opportunity to come into the ARC session and provide is it 3 slides, Andrea? A short PowerPoint presentation about their project, which will help during their review process.
Yeah.
I know, like I recall when you were on the ARC, that was always, you never knew sometimes the full details because the grant application would be very minimal.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just call them up necessarily and ask for clarification. You wanted to treat everybody equal, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes with them having that opportunity for a presentation.
Yeah, I'm surprised if we're not having more people attend that training. My staff attends and they say it's been really helpful. So.
Yeah. Odette and there's one other individual there always attends, which has been.
Yeah, definitely Odette, and then probably Shannon cross streets.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if those sessions were recorded and then maybe send out a link. So maybe it's just a scheduling issue, right?
That's probably it. And I think we did record the last one. Andrew will probably have to confirm or deny that. And I wonder if we could see how many people have accessed the link to. Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, and then we've got the marketing update next.
Yay.
Yay.
Is it a yay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick intro about myself. My name is Alexis Morris. I am not only the board administrator for the department, but I'm also the marketing and administrative specialist for ODAP. I handle anything doing with our marketing, so social media, website, all of those beautiful things, as well as I do some other administrative stuff for the department as well, like fuel tax reports, public records requests, and staff travel arrangements. And then board administration, obviously preparation, lodging, reimbursements, meals, and then our locations. So I'll kick us off with social media. This is kind of just a really general overview of everything right now. I actually, today is my official 4 months with the department. So everything I do is kind of right now in the phase of a lot of background. So there's not a lot to see, but I've been doing a lot. So with our social media, we have seen an increase in followers since the photo that you even brought up. You had 209. We now have 220 followers on our social media, on our Instagram. And this has kind of become our hub. It's become a hub where our operations staff will send me photos of what they're seeing on site, and I will post them because they see some of the coolest stuff out there. They're getting to kind of experience it on a daily basis. So I want to share that with our community. And so it's where we're kind of developing it into kind of creating those updates on airports, on what we're doing. So one of the photos down there is, I believe that's Florence with the pavement. That's actually seen a significant activity in terms of, a lot of people have liked and have interacted with that and actually shared that photo on their own socials. Yeah. So we are seeing a bigger push for a lot of people to interact with us on social media. We're seeing a consistent interaction on our photos, consistently getting likes and interaction over time from what we were doing previously. And as you can see with those photos up there, we're kind of creating a consistent brand as well. So we're kind of really developing our social media to really reflect us as a department.
And this is a great way to show, see, we're actually doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see there, there's a photo of Kenji and Brian that Kenji showed us earlier, as well as the photo of Dawn on Oahe. And so we're really wanting to be transparent and send out that information to everybody.
And if the board members are doing cool stuff, send them our way. Because if you look, there's a picture right next to the right of Brian and I.
Yeah. Yes. So anything that we're all doing, I would love to see it from our community as well. I would love to see their photos, tag us, email me. We now have a marketing email. It is marketing@odav.oregon.gov. So feel free to send any information about our airports there that you want to share or want us to share with the community.
Send us good photos.
Okay. All right, now we're onto the website. So Kenji kind of let the cat out of the bag. We are really close to signing that contract with Tyler Technologies to kick off the development of our website. So much of the content on our website, as Kenji has pointed out every time we talk about it, it's outdated, it's hard to find. With the redesign, we are updating and creating a workflow that promotes transparency and ease of use. We want you to be able to find the information you need when you need it. And if you can't, to be able to contact us when you need to. So we would love to see, and this is going to help us understand what is missing and what we can improve on as well. So what we've been doing, much of it has been behind the scenes, kind of what I was talking about. I have been deep diving our website in the back end, removing and updating old information, removing links that no longer go anywhere, creating new forms so that information is actually going to get to us when it needs to be. There is an events page or events form, I should say, that people can fill out if they have an event around Oregon that's related to aviation. And then I'm also thinking about creating a website feedback form as well so that we can really gain and understand and develop as we continue past the full redesign of our website.
Wasn't one of our complaint forms going nowhere?
There were a significant amount of forms and emails that were incorrect, information that was very out of date. Even our aviation board page was out of date. So I've gone through and really rectified a lot of that information. Our front page is a lot more streamlined from what is up there currently. Information is a lot easier to access as much as I can in the current scope of our website now. So with that redesign, it will really create a hub for our aviation community. So what's in the future? So beyond just the website redesign, we're going to be creating and implementing a communications plan. We've kind of created a little bit of a draft for that. A lot of what we do in the future is going to be heavily influenced based on our strategic plan. That strategic plan is going to be our heading for where we go and how we create that communication with our community. And then creating customer surveys so we can get those insights into the community, like more so through like our website and through our socials and in that way. And then yeah, kind of developing that plan as we go. So are there any questions or clarifications or anything deeper you would like me to go into? And Kenji, feel free to point me if there's something I missed or, yeah.
Excellent work. You're absolutely right. This is, updating and providing information that is timely and accessible. Is that I see you're contracting with the company.
Mhm.
Is there any framework or box or whatever that the state puts around you as to how you can and how and what your website can do and the type of information? I'm assuming there is. So is this a vendor that has worked on state, other agencies, and okay, that's my answer.
Yep, it's DAS approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So this company also worked on the governor's page and any other Oregon website. So there's a template that we kind of have to stick into, but we've created and pulled components that we prefer to use and those kinds of things. So
cool.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on board for 4 months. This is great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
How many followers did we have? How many do we have?
So when you posted your photo that you had up in your slide, it was 209 is what you had?
Before, wasn't like 15 followers.
Yeah, I think when I came on, it was somewhere a little less than 200. And so we're seeing, like I said, we're really seeing a lot of people really engaging. Our Facebook is kind of where it's at also. So I have it so that it shares on both. So anytime I put something on Instagram, it also shares on our Facebook. And we're seeing a lot of community engagement. They love seeing the airports. They really love seeing those drone ship photos and kind of what we're doing, like the one in Florence as well as Cape Blanco. That one is, everybody is enjoying what's going on over at Cape Blanco. So it's really wonderful to see.
And we're also trying to revive LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
On the professional side.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's been a fight with LinkedIn.
Have we gotten the password to get in yet?
Uh-oh.
No, I'm having to go through the customer support route on that. Yeah. So I'm working on it.
Have you looked at the back end data for Facebook and Instagram to see kind of where the activity is coming from?
Yeah, yes, I have been looking at it and keeping track. We're seeing most of the engagement from our from people who follow us. Oh, that was something I didn't cover. Was in the future, as we kind of develop our website as well, creating more short form videos is gonna expand our reach by 1,000. So right now we're kind of really only reaching our general audience that does follow us with about 10% of every photo that gets engaged with. About 10% of that is non-followers, which is actually pretty great for a state agency's website, social media. So with the introduction of short form videos, like, taking a video of one of our operations staff out on the field, kind of giving us a insight into what they do every day. I think that's going to be a really good push on getting more engagement and getting us out there so that people know what we do.
And we've been reposting and resharing as well.
Yes. I interact heavily with NASEO and some other national things too, so that we can kind of get our feelers out there. And hopefully they've been also reposting our stuff as well.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. We're good. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. We are now up to our finance manager.
Yay.
Oh, there's another remote. Thank you.
I think that's for this one, yeah.
The other one. Yeah, I was wondering why it wasn't working. Thank you.
Okay, so for my update, I am going to give you an overview of the budget process right now, and then I'm going to go over the annual report with you. So here's where we are at in the on the budget process. So the governor, she just released her budget on Monday. And so for our budget, it looked really good. Everything that we put in there to this date was approved. So our POPs are going through. So just as a review, those were our general aviation entitlement projects. All of those we had in there got approved. And then we also had software and software for both leasing and for aircraft registration. So that got approved. And then we also have the 2 legislative concepts that we put into the budget. So one of those was to remove the fees from statute and put those into rule. And then the fee for the UAS insurance. So those are going through, and those will become their own bills, and we'll go through the legislative process that way. And then our budget will also become its own bill and go through the legislative process as well. And then when we're done with this session, the bills that have gone through will make up our budget. And so at that time, I will go over in detail with the board, and you'll be able to vote on our approved budget. Another change that we did have from when I last presented the budget to you back in July is we were able to add the Plano project. So Tony told you about that project. Since it was a last minute project, we didn't have it in there when we were doing the agency request budget, but we were able to work with our CFO office and get that added. So that was about $3 million. And then we also added the Oak Ridge project since we got the Connect Oregon funding for that. So those were the 2 main changes since you last saw the budget in July. So then, as I said, you'll see the budget again when everything's approved, and we'll go through more detail then, and you'll be able to vote on it at that time. Did you have any questions on the budget process before I go on to the annual report?
Nice graphics.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, and the annual report. So Alexis designed it for us this year. So it's great to have her on board because she knows how to make everything look great. So thank you, Alexis. So this report, we put it together for the board every year. So it's actually a requirement in statute that we put this together for you just to go over everything that we've accomplished for the year. So in the report, we have the About section, we have the director's statement from Kenji, we have a couple of pages about the Oregon board, the benefits of aviation in Oregon. There's a little bit of a financial report, and then we have all of the programs and projects accomplished for the year, and then also the key performance measures. So the About Us section has our current mission on it. So obviously we will have that updated soon as we're getting ready to do our strategic plan. So that'll be something nice. Next year in the annual report, you'll get to see our new mission and vision on there. And then it just tells a little bit about the agency, how we have a staff of 15, 28 airports. And then here's the director's statement. And so Alexis sent you all the annual report. So you should have it in your email, and we're going to put it on the website as well. So you can read through this. I won't read through the whole thing for you right here, but oops. But Alexis did highlight one of the quotes from Kenji, and I can't see it on my screen because it's covered. But let's see, our goal to shepherd in the new era in aviation while continuing to value and support our vibrant aviation community is a bedrock principle of our agency. Well said, Kenji. Thank you. So yeah, read through that when you get the chance. So the next slide is all about the aviation board. And so Alexis highlighted all of the main things that you all did at the meeting. So what you approved and what you voted on. So there was the approval of the COAR and SOAR projects, approval of the KPM changes. You reviewed the agency request budget. You approved our legislative concepts. We had a strategic planning session. There was also the Connect Oregon modal review in July, and you approved all of our policy option packages for the budget. reviewed the annual performance progress report, and the board best practice survey was conducted. And then at this meeting right now, you approved the ARC members and you're reviewing the annual report right now. And then of course we had the work sessions every other meeting where we did a lot of trainings and reviews during those. And then we have all of your pictures over there, and Alexis and I were talking about maybe updating those. She's a photographer, and so she was able to take some pictures so we can get kind of everyone's picture on there. And we don't have, looks like we're missing Brian's.
Yes.
So it'd be good to get his on there too.
You can just crop me out of that photo in the on the social photo.
I can do that.
And then these couple of slides just highlight the aviation benefits in Oregon. And so on the left, those are actually numbers from the Oregon Aviation Plan. So as Alex talked about, we're hoping to get that updated soon, to get some new numbers in there. But they are very impressive numbers. 29 billion is the economic benefit of aviation in Oregon. 78 cities where Oregon aviation businesses are located. There's over 300 aviation companies in Oregon and over 117 jobs. And so I can imagine those numbers have.
That's amazing.
And then on the right, we have the Oregon air system numbers. So Brandon completed 621 tall towers for the year evaluations. We have 28 airports. Jerry does our aircraft registration. So she registered 3,640 aircraft and 943 public use drones. And so that number is going up every year. And then we have 66 paved public use airports that are served by the pavement maintenance program. And then a total of 97 public use airports, or is it 96 now actually, right?
96.
96. Okay, I need to update that. And then a staff of 15. And then this is the finance snapshot. So this is the snapshot of the fiscal year 24. So that's the first half of the 23-25 budget. So that budget was about $48 million. And it's really hard to see my pie graph there. But what it's saying, it's a breakdown of our programs by the budget. So the biggest chunk there is the ASAP program. So that's 30%. And then operations is 19%. Capital construction is 26%. General aviation entitlement, so those are all of our projects that are under $1 million, are 15%. And then airport projects and PMP are both 5%. And so airport projects for that budget, that was just our Cape Blanco project. We had to separate that out because it had federal funds in it. And so we highlight that our last fuel tax increase for operations wasn't until prior to 1955. So as we know, we had a aircraft increase in 2016, but that was just for the ASAP program. So we have not had a significant increase for operations. Our operations budget yearly is a little over $3 million. And so that covers operations and the maintenance for the airports. Aircraft registration brings in $392,000 a year. And so that's the registration funds that we use for the FAA grant match. And then 43% of our budget is made up of fuel tax. Yes.
Question on the fuel tax revenue. At some point, could you provide kind of a trend line of what's it been for the last 5 years?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The common number that we're seeing now.
Yeah, definitely do that.
It's kind of a scary number, to be honest with you, considering future changes to fuel.
Right.
How are we preparing ourselves for that eventuality?
Yep, I can do that for you. So these next couple of slides are an overview of all of our projects that were accomplished in 2024. And so let's see, over on the left, we have Aurora State Airport. Is the picture there on the top. It just tells a little bit about operations. So operations, we have the 4 different programs. So we have statewide services, planning, airport operations, and airport maintenance. And statewide services is just the finance and the administration of the agency. And then we have our aircraft registration program, which, as I just said, funds the grant match. Then we have a picture of Cape Blanco Airport there, as we talk about the capital construction projects. So the main capital construction projects in 24 were Cape Blanco, runway rehab, Cottage Grove, apron rehab, Siletz Bay runway and electric rehab. So the total capital construction project budget for the year was $7.5 million. Then next we have our pavement maintenance program overview. So we have a picture of Christmas Valley there at the bottom left. And so for PMP for 2024, we did design for Region 1 and construction at 10 airports. And then for pavement evaluation, we did 10 airports as well. And so our PMP budget is a little over $1 million a year. Then on the right-hand side, we have our general aviation entitlement projects. So those are the smaller ones. So we highlighted some of those. Of course, the Aurora State Master Plan, the Aurora Surface Seal, Aurora Runway Rehab Design, Chillican Obstruction Removal, Joseph Obstruction Removal, Lebanon Taxiway Rehab, Environmental, Malino Obstruction Removal. We have a picture there of the Aurora State Surface Seal. And I believe we had Alex showed a picture of that as well, bigger picture. And then we have the ASAP program. So we have pictures of the Florence Airport pavement rehab, the Lakeview taxiway rehab, and the Ashland runway or taxiway rehab, I'm sorry. So for COAR for 24, we awarded 49 grants and 4.7 million was awarded. And for SOAR cycle, it was 1.4 million. 1.45 million. And the main projects there were the Prospect runway rehab and the Cape Blanco runway rehab. And then the key performance measures, I won't go into these in detail because I've already done those at a previous board meeting. We've already gone over all of those. And then we have our contacts there. And then what airport is that there? I can't.
Cape Blanco.
Cape Blanco before it's constructed.
Yep, there's Cape Blanco. Perfect. Yeah. And that is the end of our annual report. And like I said, we're going to put that on the website and send it to the board as well. So did you have any questions on that? Okay. And thank you again, Alexis, for making that look nice.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, I guess, is the time for board updates. So it's time for board members to share news, events, any related information. Do you have anything they'd like to share today?
Doesn't look like it.
Well, I will just share that ducks are number one. So for us, it's been a fun time at the airport, making sure the team can get home. It's been a little challenging because we're not a 24/7 tower. And so we've been working some with our congressional delegation and the FAA to figure out how we can and get some extended hours. The challenges with the teams not coming just from a West Coast school back after a game now, they're coming from East Coast schools. And so they just cannot get back even under our letter of agreement, which is to stay open until up to 1:30 in the morning. They're getting back more at like 3:30 in the morning now. So we've been working through some options. But for this Sunday morning early arrival back, please everyone do your rain dance. That is really great to not have fog. We're seeing, some great flexibility and support from our local air traffic control tower folks, agreeing to actually come in early. So, but, we're still not quite closing that gap where we need to get it closed. So we're going to continue to work on that. But yeah, definitely an exciting time. Hope the team does great in Indy. And then we anticipate that we'll probably have a couple more games this season. So
Saturday, 99% chance of rain.
Yep.
Sunday, 64% chance.
Yep, but it's up early morning, so I'm good. Saturday to Sunday. That's all I need. Anybody else have things they want to share? Okay. Other business then. This is the time for board or staff to bring up topics not on the agenda.
I forgot to mention, we got to present before the Oregon Transportation Forum.
Oh,
That was cool. So a lot of policymakers out in the audience, and I was able to just talk about the agency, which is awesome.
oh, great. Was that here in Salem?
No, that was up in, was it up in Tiger? I think it was
Tualatin.
12, yeah.
Great.
That was fun. Talked about our challenges, some of the stuff that we're working on. Just give a brief overview. And of course, but a number of policymakers was there, which was fantastic. The more outreach we can do, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And there's a convenient reminder on here on my chair's agenda that says, board members, please check your workday for required annual training.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
Yeah, I'll get that done. And then let's see, agenda input. So I know we've been talking a little bit about agenda for our 2025 meetings and where to hold them. Kind of put a call out to see who might be interested in hosting. So I think we've got a couple of them nailed down, but probably open to a few more. Kenshi, if you have additional on that.
Not right now.
Okay.
Always looking for good spots. Yeah.
You always can volunteer to host. I'm sure you can as well.
Yes, exactly. And I think we're going to be probably going to Astoria. So that will be nice. And then we've talked about somewhere up in the northeastern region of the state. So we'll take a look at where that might work out well.
Yep.
But yeah, any other, Sarah, go ahead.
So I was just going to mention on that, I don't know if Ontario has facilities necessary to host, but with the BLM tanker base there, and then also TVCC with their aviation programs, that might be something that would be interesting for the board to visit.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, thank you. Probably not during fire season, I would imagine.
Right.
Okay, and then also topics for future board meetings. So we always like to give some ideas to staff about the other things that we'd like to hear about. So if you have any ideas.
When's the next update to the strategic plan?
We have our first, I guess, strategic plan planning team meeting
Next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could put together something for you for February. That's soon enough.
I didn't have a specific date in mind, just
Well,
curious.
our intention is to have it substantially completed by then. It won't be 100% likely, but at least a good portion of it will be. So I imagine we'd have at
Our
least some
goal
sort
is
of
to get
update.
it done by session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should have some sort of update for you at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, one thing I want to mention, if you're a board member, don't forget to log into your email once in a while, otherwise you'll get locked out. Bill? Bill?
Yeah, I heard that.
Be sure to change your password. That seems to be the thing that does lock up your email is not changing your password often enough. So I'm talking to IT about how to mitigate some of that.
And we do have new password requirements too, so
Yeah.
maybe we could send those to the board. It
Yeah.
has to be very long now.
Yeah, you can't use password for your password.
All right. So we've talked about future meeting locations and we'll kind of get that schedule
Yes.
shored up. And then I guess our next meeting date is Thursday, February 6th, and that will be in Salem. Hopefully good weather.
Yes.
But we may be presenting maybe a consolidated version of the project's presentation that was provided earlier to the legislature at some point during this session. I guess we just notify the board kind of who, when, where that's happening, or I don't know how that fits in, or do we just, or what do you guys prefer as far as keeping up to date as we go through this session?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd like to know when you're going to present that.
Okay.
Good. And you can invite a board member or two to go and be there with you if you like.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no set date yet, but we'll keep everything.
Great. Very good. Okay. If there is no other business, looking for raised hands, then I think we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's see.